Hey everyone, welcome to the Legal Hour. This is our last show for this first season of the Legal Hour. And so this is a topic that everybody has questions about, whether it's a divorce, relationships, child support, custody, legitimation. We're going to talk about all that today on very basic level. Just beforehand, the attorney that we're going to have on today, she is an attorney in Georgia, so this applies to Georgia law. There is no attorney-client privilege that will be established. Anything that you hear on this show or any of the other shows. So we're going to do a brief intro and I will be right back with our guest attorney.
As an attorney for over 15 years, I bring to you the new Legal Hour, where you will hear from top attorneys and judges in areas such as family law, personal injury, child support and custody, trademarks, probate, and so much more. Join us every Tuesday at 12 noon on Facebook Live or YouTube Live to get the answers to general legal questions that you may have. And don't forget to subscribe to our new legal YouTube channel at Attorney Tamika Johnson. And for more information about our firm services, visit johnsonlawpractice.com today.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, and welcome, Attorney Lakiesha Fair. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So I was going through your bio, and you are an Atlanta native.
I am. I'm an Atlanta native, born and raised, a Grady baby.
Yeah. So that's hard to find sometimes. Although I guess last week she's from Atlanta too. So
I'm a Georgia peach, so that's very hard to find.
Well, okay. See, here's the thing. I consider myself a Georgia peach, just not a native, because I've been here for like over 30 years. So I'm welcome to the family. Right? Yeah, I almost made it, right? So we're gonna talk about family law. I know you practice in several different areas. We're gonna talk about family law today, some of those basic things. But I want to let you just kind of introduce yourself, your background, and all the services that you provide. And let me make sure I have your website. So my website, for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm sorry, my name is Tamika Johnson. I'm an estate planning attorney in Georgia. My website is at the bottom if you're ready to create or update your will, trust, estate plan. Check me out on johnsonlawpractice.com. But attorney Lakiesha Fair, I have her website on the bottom, just as it is pronounced.
I before E.
I before every time I wrote your name down, I was like, okay, is it right? E-I-I-E.
Yeah, it's right. My mom is a teacher. She's an educator, so I before E except after C.
Okay, yeah, she went by the rules of grammar. Okay, so just tell us a little bit about yourself.
As you were saying earlier, I'm from Atlanta, born and raised. I went to a area elementary, middle, and high school. My high school was Banneker High School, and a lot of famous people came out of Banneker High School. We were in College Park. After high school, I went to Georgia Southern, go Eagles, and then shortly after that, I went to law school. Started out at school in Michigan and ended up graduating from Appalachian Law School in Virginia. And I've been practicing law now about 13 years. I started out doing criminal, which was originally my passion. I love criminal. I love defending people that were less fortunate. And I transitioned. I still do some criminal, but I've transitioned out of major criminal, and now I do primarily family law and personal injury law.
Okay, nice. So I have been following Attorney Fair. We've been following each other for a while. I think we're in several groups on Facebook. I think more so attorney groups and just other things that's popping up. And so we follow each other on social media. And so about a month or so ago, you did a post about a case that you had, and it was about child support. And it was a case, I believe, where your client's ex or the father of her children was trying to hide some money.
Oh, I had a lot of interaction on that post. Yes.
Yes. And it was a substantial amount of money. Right. And so I just want to start off just going through that scenario because this is what caught my attention.
Okay.
Because, people try to hide things. And I assume a lot of people get away with it, but not with you. It didn't happen that time. So tell us a little bit about that case.
And that is not as uncommon as you would think. People try to hide money because they don't think the other person deserves their money. And in this particular case, my client was sued by her ex-husband. They were previously divorced, so when she came to me, she was already divorced, and she was sued by him for custody of their minor child, a 14-year-old child. And because she was a nice lady and she may have had hopes that they may have reconciled, she never went after him for the child support that he owed her. So they had been divorced for a number of years, and he had a monthly child support obligation about $2,500 a month. And once he sued her for custody of their child, I was able to file a countersuit and for her with pursuant to that petition. And in the countersuit, I asked for her back child support. And so during that investigation, the husband maintained that he didn't have a job. He could not afford to pay the $2,400 a month. But in the interim, he had remarried, bought a new house, over $300,000 home, and was living quite a nice lifestyle. And he was also a professional that was very well known in his particular industry, and it was a specialized industry. And so it was during COVID, so he said he couldn't work. And so and he had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to try to settle the amount of money that he owed her. But he just maintained he did not have any money, but he was paying a lawyer. Interesting, right?
And so either.
Right. And so basically, because he started that and he wanted to get this child support reduced because he was going to have the son living with him. They had 2 kids, and he wanted to get his child support reduced because of that situation. Well, when you are filing lawsuits, it's a period of a period that we call discovery, and we ask for financial documents from a person, and they're supposed to supply you with all the documentation from that we request. So, for instance, we always request bank statements, but people don't always like to give their bank statements. They may not give a bank that, we don't know anything about. So you have to do investigative measures to try to find these different accounts. And in this instance, we found, and he was kind of crafty, but he messed up because he had a transfer from one bank account to an account that he had not disclosed. And from that, I was able to do an investigation from that account, and we kind of went down a rabbit hole, and we discovered he had all that money.
Yeah.
He had over 870 something $1,000 or something like that in an account.
Wow.
And he owed my client at the time almost $70,000. Almost $70,000 he owed her and had not paid her. And I mean, it was ridiculous. And she didn't even initiate the action. She had pretty much, she's a professional woman. And she had pretty much, got in her head that she was going to take care of her kids, and she wasn't going to pursue. And I'm like, no, if he owes you money, we're going to go get the money that he owes you.
Right.
And so we ended up having a court hearing. Ironically enough, we had not discovered the $700,000 before that court hearing, but we had indications that he had money. And so based off of the limited funds that he had, limited meaning maybe $200,000, we were able to, that he disclosed, we were able to have the judge demand that we have payment for that amount, or we were going to ask that he be found in contempt of courts and or pay the money, the purge amount immediately, and or jailed.
Right.
And, you have the other side is not like TV where it's dramatic, like, aha moment. Like you've sent the information to the other attorney, and the attorney has shared the information with, their client, or supposed to. And so it's up to them to make the decision on what, how they want to proceed. And so before we got before the judge, he had already made indications that he might be willing to start make a big sum payment towards that $67,000 that he owed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So who ended up getting custody?
The son signed what is called a election in Georgia. Mm-hmm. You may have saw a video on that. They can say which parent they want to live with, and at the time he wanted to live with his dad. So the mom agreed to allow him to live with his dad on a temporary basis to see how it will work. And so she agreed to let the father have the son. However, that did not change his child support obligation because of the amount of money that he made. And he was one of the ones that said he couldn't work. Mm-hmm. And so it was quite an argument I had to put up with the judge. We had to do research on his field, what people normally make his skill set, his skill level. And that was conservatively around $80,000 a year. Could be more money. And he was selling articles online. He was in all these educational magazines, and he was pretty much a specialist in his field, and he was getting paid specialist prices. And so he kept indicating to the judge, "Oh, I don't have a job. It's COVID, but you're having 2 kids and you got a nice home." And so we asked the judge for what is called imputation of income. And we asked the judge, "Okay, Your Honor, although this person is not working, a person with his skill set can find a job making this amount of money." Right. And that's what the judge awarded. So the judge awarded that he be imputed at a certain level, and we calculated his child support going forward off of that level, which was about the same as it was before because he hadn't disclosed, everything before. So it was a financial win for my client. Of course, she was disappointed that her son wanted to go live with his dad, but instead of fighting that, which is what she originally hired me to do, she acquiesced and let him go live with his father.
Yeah. And just for clarification, because all kids just can't decide who they want to live with at any age, just wanted you to clarify the age that can happen.
Age 14 in Georgia, you can let the court know which parent you want to live with. The court will look, still make the determination, but you can elect to say, which parent you want to live with, and the judge using, the best interest of the child, they will listen to the child in that situation to see, if it's something that they agree with.
Right. So, okay. All right. So we have a few questions already. If you are watching, you have a question, you could submit it in the comments and I will relay those over to Attorney Fair. Okay. First question, though, we have is, let's see. My daughter's father was ordered to pay child support 6 months ago, but he has been promoted at his job and is making more money. Can I get more in child support?
Maybe. It depends on if it depends on if the child support order is through the Department of Family and Children Services or if it is through a court order. And the one through the Department of Family and Children Services is 3 years before you can file for an upward modification of child support, typically. And the other one is 2 years. However, if it is substantial, there's a substantial and material change, like a significant amount in income, you may be able to bring the action before then.
Okay, I didn't know that. I always thought it was okay. So I did a little bit of family law, like way back when in my first years, but it's been a long, long time. But I remember back then it was like I just remember 2 years. It had to be 2 years before you could modify. So 3 if it's a defects case. Or is that defects?
Well, it's not a defects case. It's and I shouldn't say it's through the it's through child support enforcement. Okay. But it's child support enforcement. Okay. So if you're going through the state to try to recover, it's a longer process than if you hire a private attorney and do it through the court systems that way.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So this is a question I'm sure that you get a lot of, and it's very relevant to a lot of situations right now. Mm-hmm. And that question is, me and my ex-girlfriend have a child together and I signed the birth certificate. Is signing the birth certificate enough for me to get visitation or custody?
No.
You're like, no. You won't even let me finish the sentence.
No, I already knew where it was going. No. Unfortunately, in Georgia, signing the birth certificate only gives you a recognition that you could possibly be the father of the child. In Georgia, in order to be a legal father of a child, you have to file a petition in the Superior Court in the county that the child lives in. That's the only way that you're going to have legal rights to the child. So in the scenario that this person presented, you could basically avail yourself to child support by putting your name on the birth certificate, but you still have no legal rights to the child. You have to get legitimated so you can have a legal say in your child's life. And if you don't get legitimated as the legal father, I get 90% of my clients are men, and they will come in and I put myself on child support. Don't do that. Don't put yourself on child support. Contact a lawyer before you do that. But they will have they will think because their name on the birth certificate, they have legal rights, and they don't have legal rights. You don't have legal rights until you file a petition that gives you legal rights, and you want to make sure you hire an attorney that can make sure you get custody and visitation as well. Because some people I've had coming to me, attorneys are, they might get them legitimated, but then they don't even have visitation rights because they haven't put it in the order. So you want to make sure you hire somebody that's competent in these areas.
Wow. So meaning that you get a father, I don't know, maybe I think there's like forms online sometimes. So they file themselves, but they don't put in anything for custody, and they've done legitimation.
Oh, yeah, or they don't put a visitation schedule in, or they mistake what joint legal and joint physical custody is and sole custody. And these are legal, they're legal standards. Another scenario, but on the caveat to that is just because a person is not paying child support, if they are legitimated, that does not bar you from seeing your child. So if you're legitimated and you are having financial difficulties, a mom can't stop your visitation because you're not paying child support.
And that was a question that we had. So
was it?
Yeah, it was a question that someone had. I'm behind on my child support, so my son's mom won't let me visit with him anymore. Can she do that?
No, not legally. She cannot do that. No, you need to.
Okay.
If that in that particular scenario, that person, and I don't know if that person is legitimated or what, but if you're not legitimated, you're a stranger in the eyes of the law, so you don't have any legal rights. If you are legitimated, then you have legal rights to your child, and child support and visitation are two separate issues. So you can see your child and not pay child support, but you want to make sure you pay child support, but that should not be a bar from you visiting your child.
Listen, I have seen so many men in court for abandonment for those issues.
Yes.
Not paying child support, and then the mom take away the visitation with the dad, and then it's 30 days, and in 30 days someone's told him you can go down to the courthouse and file for abandonment. And it's very, very unfortunate. And I have to say, again, the first couple of years when I was practicing, I did that. I almost became a father's rights attorney because just going in court and you just see a box of men.
Right.
And they don't know like which way is up. They already don't want to be there. They're already in the court, in a courtroom where they don't want to be, just terrified, agreeing to anything, going to jail. And a lot of it they could have avoided.
Right. But the caveat to that is, and I tell the guys that, because 90% of my clients are men, I tell them the caveat to that, kids don't understand I don't have a job. So send $50. I mean, you putting gas in your car, you got to pay, you got to do something. So it won't look as though you just abandon a child that you created with a person. Send something on a consistent basis, even if it's not, $500-$600, you can send $50 a month or $100 a month, something to show the court that you're not trying to abandon a child that you've made, because people do that. And that's why they had to make that law, because people would make kids and not care for them. So the laws are in place because things have happened. So they had to be created, You see, so but that should not be a bar from visitation.
Now, what about fathers sending like clothes or buying a meal? Does that count?
The number one thing God says, I bought my son shoes, and don't nobody care about the shoes that you buy. Like, no, like kids need like constant things all the time. And so to say I bought my child an outfit or shoes, those are things that you should be doing anyway. So though you don't get points for being a father, you're supposed to provide for your child anyway. But I do advise fathers that if they are spending money on clothes for their kids, if a legal issue come up, keep the receipts so you can show that you are providing support some type of way for your child. If you're sending money, don't just send money. If you send it, say it's for child support, say is, put some kind of notation on it so the court will know if it became an issue that you were providing that money for your child specifically. If not, then it's considered a gift.
Oh, interesting. There was this video, I don't know, like a month or so ago, where this wife, so it was a couple, they were married, but the husband, he had, a kid or kids from a previous relationship. And the wife, I'm sorry.
I saw that video.
You remember that?
I was going to post on that, but I ran out of, stuff doesn't stay as current, and I'm plugging up my laptop. Okay, here we go before we lose you. Okay. I saw that video and she was saying you already send child support. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But ask your question.
No, so that's the question. So was she in the right or the wrong? Just
I mean,
it's a relationship question in a way, right?
Yeah. You can be right and wrong at the same time.
Yeah.
Like you can be right because child support is just support, you're supporting the household that the child lives in. So, and kids are expensive. I try to let guys know, I'm like, when you get a kid from school, what's the first thing they want when they get in the car?
Something to eat.
Something to eat. So you stop by the store and get them something to eat. That's before you even get home. And then most kids, if they're at school, they're getting 2 meals. They're getting breakfast and lunch. That could be $70 a week per child per week. And then a lot of times kids are in aftercare. That's $45 a week for one child. So if you're sending $500 and $600, a lot of the money is going for the kid to eat at school, possibly aftercare. And you haven't even gotten into the household good. And don't let it be an infant when daycare can be, $300-$400 a week, depending on what kind of daycare you have your child in. So, but back to your earlier question, I personally think that the lady was wrong. However, I can see both sides because a lot of times in a house, a woman may be upset if the father or somebody is not spending the same amount of money on the kid in the house. So the kid might be in the house with the dad, but the mom might be paying all the bills. And then you got a $1,000 child support obligation that's going out the door. And I'm on this end, making sure our household runs smoothly. And every month we're losing $1,000 of your income because of your prior marriage or your prior child support situation. And I have to hold down this to make sure we stay the way we need to stay. So I can see her point. However, if a father wants to do something for his child, let the father do something for his child. That's my personal opinion. I think that was more of a relationship question because she may have felt invalidated in other areas that we don't know about. And that particular scenario may have been just a trigger. It wasn't just about him giving, buying something else for the child. Or how many times you go like, when was the last time you bought my child something in the household that you live in? So it could be all kind of, different reasons why that situation went the way it went.
Listen, she had all kinds of suitcases.
She was serious about that.
She was. And I do remember having a conversation with my husband about it. But, the same thing. That's kind of like, you don't know what their financial situation is in that household. Like, right. She could be paying all the bills and she's just kind of like, okay,
right,
that's enough. So, yeah, it depends. And that happens a lot.
$1,000 on this.
Yeah. Yes. It happens a lot when women are taking care of the household because so much of the
money
father,
is going out.
or the husbands or partners, their income is going to to their children. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do have another question. Let's see. Okay. I'm going through a divorce, and my almost ex-husband has a side job that he doesn't report on his taxes. I don't know exactly how much, though. Can we use that side income to calculate child support?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All income is calculated for child support. So that I have had, that has been a disadvantage to me because most of my clients are men, and a lot of times, especially if you live in Atlanta, you may have an extra job, and you're getting an extra job so you can do the fun stuff with your job, because your full-time job is where a lot of your obligations go. And so so you get your part-time job or your second job to, live the kind of life that you want to live or help live it, whatever. But that's income. And that can be calculated as part of child support. Unfortunately, depending on whose side I'm representing.
Right. Right. So I think
well, I'm representing the men, and most of my clients are men. It's unfortunate because it can be, calculated as income.
Yeah. So in a situation like that, you just kind of like, listen, like, just what is the average, and just tell them to be.
Yeah, and it gets kind of dicey because it depends on how long they've been on the job. I see it more when guys they get overtime, and so you'll get overtime. You're working overtime. You might not have an extra job, but you're working overtime, and you're working overtime. You want a little extra money, and then you're going through this divorce, and then you may see all of these check stubs with like an extra $200 or $300 on your account. And it would come up to your lawyer to prove that these are just isolated incidences, and income should not be based on, for child support, shouldn't be based on these slight windfalls, especially in a permanent order. But if the person does have like a part-time job, depending on the length of the job, it can be calculated as child support. I'll have guys that are in the military, and they may be getting, like, they may do special deployments. So they may get, $10,000 a month or something for a few months. And then they might call me when they're going through that particular, time, and their income would be so inflated that it takes some doing to make sure the accurate numbers are being reported.
Yeah. That's always interesting, that the whole financial portion of it. That's when people get heated right there.
Yeah.
So okay, so I can't remember the year, but I want to say it was like around, it had to be anywhere between like 2007 to 2009 or 10, where in the state of Georgia, they kind of redid the child support calculation guidelines. Have they been redone since then, to the best of your knowledge?
They have been redone. And actually, I think because I think I just got an email from the state bar that it may have been a new change that's coming down the pipeline, or that is changing. Because back in the day, this was before I was really licensed good, they would calculate it off a percentage basis. And now they have a calculator, and it's actually online. The child support calculator is online, and you can kind of give a rough estimate of what you may be paying in child support. And it's pretty straightforward. The sophistication comes with an attorney, because the attorney can look at some of the things that are in the calculation, and can assess whether or not it should be something that's even included. So that's why you want to hire an attorney when you're doing stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
All right. Another question I get about child support, number one question I get about child support, the spouse's income is not used to calculate child support. I get that question a lot. Will my spouse income be used to calculate child support? And it won't. And another question I get is, will a child that I'm paying child support for in another relationship, will that be included in my child support? And if you have a court order, it can. So those are two of the number one questions I get asked about child support calculations.
Okay. But both incomes of the mother and the father are always taken into consideration,
right?
Correct?
And that's what I want people to see about child support, because in Georgia, basically the law is saying, if this child lived in the house with both of these parents, then this is the amount that the mom will be contributing, this is the amount the father will be contributing. And since the father is not in the house, then he's just providing that money that he would have provided had they still been in the same house together. And child support, let me say this and let me be clear. Child support is not going to mom's nails and hair. A lot of I'm sending this money, she getting her hair and nails done. But what has she done all month before she got her hair and nails done? If you have kids and you're in a house with kids, you know how expensive they are. You got, if it's a girl, you're buying hair bows, you're buying grease, you're buying combs, you're buying lotion, deodorant, soap, toothpaste, so all of that stuff, sheets for the bed, washing powder, all of that stuff is supporting the household that the child lives in. If you have multiple kids, you're doing that for multiple people, multiple children. And when you start adding it away, it's not a lot of money. It's just not a lot of money. The average child support for the cases that I take is around between $700 to maybe $1,500 a month, conservatively. And it sounds like a lot of money, but then I say, okay, well, how much are you spending on your car? Most car notes, if you have a nice or decent car, or depending on your credit, you might be spending $500 or $600 a month, before you get to insurance. Right. So, and then gas is $100 a week, So when you think about that and you think about a child or a human person, you'll see that is not as much money as you think, because that's the number one. It doesn't take $1,000 for the child to live. It may, when the person got to put gas in their car and take your child to and from school every day, or to and from the daycare every day, or they got to go grocery shopping every day and come back home. All of this stuff is supporting the household that the child lives in.
Yeah. Don't even get into extracurricular activities.
Don't get into extracurricular activities. Don't get into anything like that. Don't get into clothes. Don't get into teenagers. So it's a lot.
It does.
Kids are expensive.
They are.
They're humans. They're humans. They're expensive.
I know. They are. I think about it every day. Goodness gracious. Okay. So I do have a couple more questions. Okay. So next one is, I want a divorce, but my wife said she won't sign any papers. What can I do? Does she have to sign something for me to get a divorce?
No. In Georgia, you can't, well, generally, you can't stay married. You don't have to stay married to a person that you don't want to stay married to. So you may have a contested divorce. And in Georgia, we have uncontested divorces and we have contested divorces. And an uncontested divorce, you pretty much agree on everything. You'd agree on the divorce, you agree on child support, how property is split. There are no material issues that are in dispute. In an uncontested divorce, you could disagree on a divorce. And a lot of times they don't agree on the divorce because it's going to put them in a financial hardship some kind of way. They might genuinely love the person and they don't want them to be with anybody else, but it's a lifestyle change for everybody. Yeah. It's a lifestyle change. Your child might not be able to go to private school anymore. You may not be able to live in the $500,000 house because you can't get it refinanced in your name alone. Both of your names may have been on the mortgage, and that's how you're able to afford this $500,000 house. And now, if you can't get it refinanced in your name with your income alone, you got to find you something else. You've become accustomed to a certain lifestyle. So people object or may object to changing their lifestyle that way. Then you have 401ks and you have marital property, and people are not just going to just give people their stuff that they've worked hard for. And and then other people are thinking, well, while you were working hard, I was raising your kids and I couldn't do the stuff that I wanted to do because I was, I had to take off work all the time off of my job when the children were sick, or, so everybody has an issue. Everybody has a point. And during divorces, I'm not as adversarial as some people are. I am a certified mediator. So I like to try to come to a resolution before it gets really adversarial. But when people's feelings are hurt, sometimes you got to take it to court. And that's just how it is.
Yeah, I do want to talk a little bit more about mediation, because usually 9 times out of 10, you have to at least attempt to mediate the case. And I used to always tell people, like, it's better that you have input as to what goes on, as opposed to just going before a judge who's going to look at your case for about 5 minutes or so and make a determination. So,
and that's kind of what I tell my clients. I'm like, and this, if you mediate, this is you creating the law for your situation. This is your law for your situation, and you have a say in how you want your life going forward to be with the person that you created kids with, or the person that you thought you were going to create a long-lasting life with. But if not, if it doesn't resolve at mediation, then you have somebody else making decisions on how you think your life should be, and you don't have a say in it then. And so I always try to, and most of the major counties in Georgia, well, I ain't gonna say in Georgia, but in the Atlanta metro area, they have some form of mediation that they want you to go to before they even get to the judge, because everybody knows that if the case can be mediated, you should try to go that route, because that is an individual person having a say in how the rest of their life is going to go, especially if you have kids, And then another thing about mediation is you may not get all the issues mediated. You may get custody mediated, or you may get, you may get most of it worked out, but you may not get everything worked out. And if you don't, then you take those issues for the court and let the court decide on the remaining issues.
Mm-hmm. So, we always say, like, the best agreements are the ones where nobody's completely happy.
Right.
Or that is. And that's important for people to know, that you are not going to get everything that you want, and the other person's not going to get everything that they want, and you're going to have to suck it up.
And I'm reading this. He said, my wife said she won't sign any papers. So what can I do? So basically, to answer your question more specifically, you would have to just file an action against her in the county that you both live in, and you have to have her served, or you hire an attorney, and we do all of that for you, and you'll get you a court date, and then we go to talk to the judge about it. So that's what you have to do. You have to get her served. You have to file a complaint for divorce, and then get her served with it.
Yeah. I remember hearing that a lot, like just hearing people say, well, the other person won't sign any papers. And I'm like, they don't need to.
Yeah. Because the reason that they won't sign it is because it's normally something it's not advantageous to them. So they're like, I want a divorce. Okay, well, where am I gonna live? I don't care where you live. Oh, okay. Well, so but you don't have to stay married to somebody that you don't want to stay married to.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about alimony and alimony requirements in divorce cases. You can talk a little bit about that. What are the chances of someone getting alimony, and kind of how that plays out?
Well, in Georgia, there are certain things that a person can get alimony in Georgia. There are different types of alimony, but a bar to alimony is infidelity. So you can be cheating on your wife and then thinking you're not going to get away with paying some alimony, especially if that's the reason that, and I say wife, I shouldn't say wife, partner, and think, because if you are a person that has been living in a house and you have sacrificed your education, sacrificed your job, and you kind of maintain the house while the other person achieves certain things, that marriage is a partnership. And so repayment on that is support through alimony. You can't just leave a person high and dry when they have spent years of their life supporting you or supporting the house, the family in some kind of way. Now, how long they pay alimony and the amount of alimony, that's all going to depend on the income of the person, the educational level of the person that's trying to receive alimony. But I did have an interesting alimony case one time, and it was an area law I wasn't even really familiar with. If a person is disabled, so if a person is disabled in Georgia, you just can't leave them, and just get a divorce. You may have to pay some type of alimony for them in order for and to help support them for a while until they can get on a certain level on their feet. So Alimony is a touchy subject, as many people probably can imagine, but it is something that is warranted in a lot of situations. Normally, for women who have spent years raising kids, they may have been in the military. Husband may have been in the military, and they bounced all around the country or out of the country for years, and they couldn't achieve what they needed to achieve to financially support themselves, and so they need to be supported with alimony for a while until they can get on their feet.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say you have a woman who she took care of the kids, but on the side, she did like Mary Kay, or maybe she had like a part-time job. So she was getting like a little bit of income. Does that bar her from alimony just because she was getting a little bit of income?
That wouldn't be a bar from alimony. No.
Okay.
It could be factored into the reduction of the amount, but it's not a total bar from alimony. No.
Okay. That's good to know. Okay. So we have, let's see, one more question. So next question is, my spouse and I are separated, but we haven't filed for divorce. I want to move closer to my family, which is a few hours away. Will I get in trouble if I do that?
Well, I'm wondering if they have kids.
Okay. Yeah. So they do. That was the premise of it. Yeah. So their premise is, that they have kids, but they want to move closer to their family.
Especially if you're married, you can't do it. I just had a case like that. The mother was about to move to Africa, and basically, if a person has been married and they're the legal father of the child, you cannot make decisions. You cannot make unilateral decisions when it's two people that share custody. And if you're married, because she said they're separated, so they haven't filed for divorce, I mean, they're married, they both have the same rights to the child. So one person can't make a unilateral decision and move away, hours away, without the permission of the other parent. You just can't legally do that. And so you have to go through the courts to get that resolved the right way, or you could be in some serious trouble if you don't.
Okay. Because what I can imagine is, what I can imagine is people, they know that they're going to get a divorce, but they really want to move beforehand before anything is done. And they're kind of like, well, is it okay? I move here temporarily, then you come a little bit later on. And then one of the parties moves and then they file for divorce. And the other partner didn't.
People not silly. I mean, they're not stupid. We know that is what you're trying to do. You're trying to circumvent the system. But if you can move, you can have a whole life set up somewhere in a whole nother state with somebody else in a new situation. And when it comes to the divorce and time for it to get filed, if the judge sees that the child needs to be in a situation that's for the best interest of the child, you may have made a move that you shouldn't have made, so those type of things, you see that a lot. I primarily see it when women have left, or they, people are separated, and then the new person that the woman is married to gets a job, and then the job is out of state or out of the country. And then the mom wants to move because she has primary physical custody, and she wants to move. And the dad might be like, I don't want my child living, in Texas because your man got a new job, So those are situations where that can be kind of contentious. And it's going to be up to the court to determine, based off of the facts, whether whether they approve the move or not for the child. The parent can move wherever for the child is what the courts will have to determine.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that can get kind of,
Yeah, I just would like for you just to kind of reiterate what that means to a father, again, who is not legitimating his child. The ability and flexibility of a mother just to move anywhere if she can or can't.
If you are not legitimated, you are a stranger in the eyes of the law. You don't have any legal rights. The mother can do whatever she wants to do. If you're not legitimated, legally do, like not beat the child, but I'm talking about like the mother can make any decisions in the child's life because she's the sole parent. And if you're not legitimated, the mother can move out of the country. She can move out of the state. She can move, wherever she wants to move. And I see a lot of cases where fathers have not been legitimated, and say the mom, because you remember a few years ago when a lot of teachers were going like to different countries to teach. They were going, it was like an influx. They were like getting paid all this money to go teach in different places and stuff like that. But they needed passports for their kids. And I'll have a father that's not legitimated, but has been paying child support. And then you'll get a case where the mom is trying to move, and they can't move because their child's last name is the same as the father's last name, even though the father is not legitimated. So you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They signed the birth certificate, so they had the father's last name. And so those moves were hindered because the father not being legitimated couldn't say that the child legally couldn't go, but the mom, because the child's name was on the father, the father's name was on the child's birth certificate, couldn't really get the passport because it wasn't her last name, and the father had to agree. It was very, very dicey because one person didn't have legal rights, but the other person couldn't legally move, even though they had, they were the sole parent of the child. So we get all kinds of cases.
Yeah, I had heard all of that. I wouldn't even think about all of that. So how were some of those fathers even getting around that?
You can't get around it, really. You have to go to court, and it has to be a determination made by the judge. It's statutory. You have to have permission from the father if you want to get and that's even for a vacation. Just take move out of it for a vacation. Like if you want your child, a mom might want her child or whatever to go to Bahamas or somewhere that you need a passport. You can't get a passport without the other parent's permission. And so that would set up a whole power struggle, because even though I'm not legitimated, I still got some right, so to speak, in this regard, because you need me a little. And so then the mom would have to go and file this petition, show how the father is not legitimated, and it was a whole thing.
Wow. Now, I didn't touch anything on that, and I hadn't even thought about all of that. And then by then,
we do it all.
I know you do. They probably missed their opportunity to leave, or they're so frustrated they didn't even want to.
But when I do my orders, I put passport language in my orders. So
okay.
Yeah, I put passport language in my divorce orders and in my legitimation orders.
Okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So that's it that we have as far as questions. Do you have any final words or advice to anyone when it comes to anything family law, divorces, legitimation, child support, child custody, any of that?
I have a few things. As far as the biggest thing I see when parents have their rights trampled on is the legitimation process. Because you in Georgia, you could really be paying $1,000 a month for a child that you can't see, because you have either put yourself on child support or your name is on the birth certificate, and the mom may have gone to child support enforcement, and you are obligated to pay this child support amount, but she's still refusing to allow you to see the child. Or what I more so see is, because most moms don't really like flat out refuse, they just want you to see them how they want you to see them. So, and that happens because some guys are inconsistent, and then they don't want to plan their day around inconsistency. So they try to control it and say, well, if you're going to come, these are the times that I want you to come. And they can do that because you're not legitimated. So it makes the father feels like she's telling me what to do, which she is. And so no man wants somebody telling them how they can see their child. So you need to get your child legitimated. If you're in a relationship with the person and you have a child after the baby is born and you're not married, first of all, you should get married. That's my personal opinion. But if you're not married, then you get a legitimation so you can have legal say in your child's life. That's my first thing.
Absolutely.
My second thing is, don't run down and put yourself on child support. Please don't do that, because a lot of child support enforcement doesn't even really look at the income, I found, of the mom. They looking at your income. So you want to make sure that you hire somebody, even if it's not me, but I'm one of the best. If you're hiring somebody that is making sure all income is being counted in, not just your income. So so that's for legitimation and child support. And you also want to make sure you get legal rights. So in Georgia, the mother can have primary physical custody, but you want to make sure you get joint legal custody because you want to have a say in the rendering of your child's life, or the rearing of your child's life. You want to be, have a say in their education. You want to make sure your name is on their school paperwork, and you want to have a say in their doctor visits and sports and extracurricular activities, religion. So you don't want to just be a parent that's paying and picking up somebody every 2 weeks. You want to make sure you have an active say in your parent's life, and you do that through joint legal custody. And we get all our clients, for the most part, joint legal custody. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, that is good information. Look, there is a lot that goes into having children and a lot of considerations. So I just wish people that were just a little bit more responsible. Yeah. And I know because I was a single mother.
Yeah. And a lot of it is lack of knowledge. They think they're doing the right thing. It's lack of knowledge and joy. Because in Michigan, well, I ain't gonna just say Michigan, but in some states, if your name is on the birth certificate, then you are the legal, parent. But that's just not the case in Georgia. So you don't have as many rights in this state unless you do things a certain way.
Yeah, you heard there were songs about that, right? You like paying child support for like 18 years and you find out it's not your kid and all that other stuff.
I think they should really do some legislation on that, especially with modern tech. Like you can have a DNA test right after the child is born and just save yourself, that draw. I think they should mandate it. If the child is not married, if you're not married, then it should that'll take the stress off the mom and the dad of having to even have that awkward conversation. It's just mandated that if this child is not, if that becomes a law, let me get credit for it. But, but I really think it would cut down a lot of confusion because a lot of it is that hard conversation. If you're in a relationship with somebody, you don't want to have that conversation about, is this child mine? So they mandate these tests, while they're in the hospital, then that'll take out a lot of the, a lot of the contention. And if people automatically just go seek legitimation once the child is born, and everybody don't know that that's what they're supposed to do. So it's just about educating and, making sure people understand the laws in that area.
Yeah. And even as you're saying that, I'm kind of thinking, you said the education standpoint or perspective, like if you're in a hospital and just even like the nurses or whomever, the person that has the Social Security application or what have you, them giving the information, they see the father, like here's information about legitimation, and just so at least they'll have it, because I don't know if a lot of people even know about it.
I know that they don't. Most people think because they signed the birth certificate, they have rights. And that's just not true.
Yeah. And I think that's unfortunate.
It is.
Honestly, I think if you are paying child support, you should have some rights as well. But that's not up to me. That's where we are.
Right. We got to get the legislation changed on that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming. It's been very, very informative. Again, I know this kind of touches on all the little areas, or most of the little areas in family law, domestic law. And kudos to you for, doing this for so many years and representing fathers a lot, with the majority of your clients being men. I love that because they need a say.
Right.
Absolutely. A lot of women, they hear their girlfriend, so they know the system a lot of times.
And I represent women too now, but just for some reason, most of my clients are men. So
usually it comes from like referrals, right?
But, it's funny. It seems like most of my clients are men for the legitimation and stuff, but for the divorces, is mostly women.
Interesting.
They want to make sure I find that money.
Right. Right. Well,
thank you, Tamika, for having me. I really enjoyed it, and I hope I was able to help some of your listeners with some of the information.
Absolutely. Again, to contact Attorney Fair, the website's at the bottom, Lakiesha I before E fairlaw.com. And she also practices in the areas of personal injury. And is there another area that I'm missing?
I do some criminal, limited criminal,
Okay.
primarily family law, personal injury, and limited criminal law.
All right. And get in that accident before you agree to any fault or anything.
Right. If you get hit by a car, call me.
Yeah.
Or a truck.
Yeah, those truck cases. But be careful.
Be careful out there, people. Be careful. Be careful.
No texting and driving. All right. Have a good afternoon. We will see you when we come back for season 2. It has been a pleasure. And I'm glad we ended with this, because this is like, again, the topic that everyone was kind of like, I need to know something. So thanks again. We'll see you next season, and take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.